Hello everyone. In this lesson, we will learn how to work with multiple post types when it comes to the WordPress REST API. So for example, at the moment, our search overlay only works with a single post type. So for example, I know that I have blog posts named Biology is Cool and We Won an Award. So if I search for either of those titles, Biology or Award, those results obviously come in successfully. But there's more to our website than just blog posts. For example, we have a page named About Us. But if I try to search for About, we won't see any results. Now the reason that this is happening is simple. This is quite literally the way that we programmed our JavaScript. So let me show you what I mean. In our text editor, let's open up our search.js module file. And if we scroll down to our method named getResults, remember this is the URL that we are sending a request to. And towards the end of the URL, we have posts. And then we add on our search string. So this is why at the moment, it's only going to search through that one post type, posts. So if we wanted to, we could change this from posts to pages. And then if I save that, now if I try to search for about, we do successfully see the About Us page as a result. But now if I tried to search for a blog post, we'd be out of luck again, right? So if I search for biology, we don't see the Biology is Cool blog post. So that didn't solve anything. Now we've just got the opposite problem. Now we are only searching through pages. So the question is, how can we have our cake and eat it too? How can we search through both posts and pages? Well, the WordPress REST API does not have a native way of doing that. But it's not a problem because we can just send out another request to a second URL. And then we can manually combine and smush together the two resulting sets of incoming JSON data. So let me show you what I mean. Let's set this current URL back to posts instead of pages. And then down here within this code that will not run until the server has had a chance to respond with the JSON data, let's actually cut all of this highlighted code into our clipboard. So let's begin selecting on this line, and let's select all the way down to the is spinner visible false line. Okay, let's cut that into our clipboard. Cool. Now right now where my cursor is blinking, any code we type is not going to run until the server has a chance to send back the data. So within this callback area, let's just set up another JSON request, right? Let's send out another request to a URL that uses pages instead of posts. So down on this line, let's just say $ to use jQuery, and then let's look inside it for the getJSON method, semicolon at the end of that. And remember that getJSON takes two arguments. The first argument is the URL that you want to send a request to, and the second argument is what you want to do once that URL has actually responded. So this is where we would typically create an anonymous function. Why don't we use the ES6 arrow syntax? So first you just type in the name of a parameter you want to use. You can make up whatever parameter name you want, like data or results. But in this context, I'm going to use pages, and then we just say equal greater than to create the arrow symbol. And then right after that, let's just add a pair of curly brackets. And then in between the brackets, I like to drop down just to stay organized. And now within those curly brackets, let's just paste in our clipboard. Okay, now that we've got that pasted in code back in place, let's shift our attention back to this temporary X placeholder that I used. We don't actually want an X here, we want the URL that we want to send a request to. So in order to save a ton of typing, why don't we just copy and paste what we already wrote up on this line? So I'm going to begin selecting at the beginning of this university data, and then just select all the way to the right, up until the end of .val, parentheses. So right before this comma here. Let's go ahead and copy that. And then down on this line, instead of this placeholder X, let's delete that and paste in our clipboard. And then we can just change this from posts to pages. Now I know that the last few minutes has just been a lot of me telling you what to do without really explaining what's going on. But trust me, in just a few minutes we are going to break things down and analyze everything. And actually, check this out. I think after our next step, everything will start to make sense. So what I want to do now is right above this line where we are targeting the HTML of the results div. Right above that, let's add a new line, and let's create a new variable. We could name it whatever we want, but I'm going to name it combined results. And let's set it to equal posts. And let me refresh your memory of what posts is in this context. If we scroll to the right, when our first request goes out, all of the JSON data that the server is going to send in response will temporarily live in our parameter here named posts. So back in this brand new line of code, posts is the array of the incoming JSON data. And in JavaScript, every array has access to a method named concat. This stands for concatenation, and this is how we can combine multiple arrays. So we're starting with the posts resulting data, and then we're saying let's add on, and then within these parentheses, let's just say pages, right? Because pages is the name of the parameter where all of the resulting JSON data from this URL will temporarily live. So on this new line of code, altogether, we're creating this brand new variable that basically smushes together the two different sets of incoming results. So now all we need to do is down here within our template literal, when it comes to looping and displaying the results, instead of looking within an array named posts, let's just look inside our new combined array that's named combined results. So let's change this. And if you're using Sublime Text or Atom, you can just highlight the word posts here and then either press Control D or Command D, and that will select the next instance and the next instance. And then you can just say combined results. And that will get added in all three spots here. Cool. So let's go ahead and save this. And now if I search for history, I see our subpage named Our History. And if I search for biology, for that blog post, Biology is Cool, perfect, it's there. And if I search for lorem, as in lorem ipsum, we see just about every page and post in my website, which is what I would expect. So this means that new JavaScript code we just wrote is working properly. However, we can do better. This is not the best way of coding things. What I'm referring to is the way that we nested one getJSON request. We nested this inside another getJSON request. Now this might be the simplest and most obvious setup, but in terms of creating the fastest user experience for our website visitors, this is not the best way of coding things. Now, in order to learn why this is less than ideal and what we can do better instead, we are going to take a quick vocabulary break and learn about two terms, synchronous and asynchronous. Now, in order to explain these two terms, I've come up with an analogy or a diagram. So imagine you're standing in the very center of a grocery store, and you're there with a group of 3 people. So there's yourself and 2 friends or family members. And imagine that there are 3 items spread out across the grocery store that you want to place in your basket. Now the terms synchronous and asynchronous represent the different strategies for getting those items into your basket. So let's walk through both, but let's begin with synchronous. So here's what that would look like. The first person starts walking towards this item, but while that's going on, the other 2 people are completely frozen. They just have to sit and wait and watch until the first person completes their task. Now, once this first person successfully brings an item back to the cart, only then can the second person begin their task. And while that's going on, the third person is still completely frozen and cannot begin anything yet themselves. Right? So then once the second person completes their task, only then can the third person start their business. So clearly this is not the fastest possible way of getting all the items into the basket, right? Because there's a lot of just sitting around and waiting for other people to finish their tasks. But that's how synchronous code works. Now the opposite of this is asynchronous. So in an asynchronous world, all three people could be simultaneously walking to get their item in the grocery store, right? So this person starts walking, this person starts walking, so does this person. Now, there's no guarantee or predictability of who's going to finish first, but in this case, it doesn't matter. The idea is just that all three people are working at the same time, right? So maybe they all finish very close to one another, and it's clear that this is probably going to be a lot faster than the synchronous way. The three people are not just sitting there idle waiting for each other. They can all simultaneously be getting work done. So this means that asynchronous code has the potential to be a lot faster, but it's not always the right tool for the job. It just depends on the situation. Now, having said all of that, let's get back to the task at hand. And that task is us wanting to send out multiple JSON requests to these different URLs. Now, at the moment, we have set things up in a rather synchronous way, right? Because this inner getJSON request is not even going to begin until this first JSON request has completed. Now, there are a lot of different ways we could set this up, but in my opinion, our best bet is to sort of mix and match synchronous with asynchronous. Here's what I mean. Why don't we adjust this so that the two getJSON requests can run together at the same time asynchronously? And then only once they both complete do we want to run any of this code. Now that's exactly what we are going to set up together in part 2 of this lesson. So let's keep things rolling, and I will see you in the next video.